Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.
Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. We highlighting different people connecting in the culture of Detroit. Detroit culture is so rich because the people make it rich. It's the people inside, outside, all around that add to what we pouring in. And y'all already know March is something where women are commemorated. Love women. Detroit women rule the world. You know, it's so many things when I think about the essence. And some of these stories are captured than other people than me, other people than YouTubers, podcasters. It actually is a form of content that goes back further. It's called journalism, and it's called writing. And I have one of the writers here that I introduced to a couple of my big homies that do different business here. And she was featuring another month commemorating Black History Month. And that's cool. Chanel Stitt, how are you today?
I'm good. Wishing it was a little warmer. How are you?
Well, you know, I mean, when we think about this season, it hasn't been as rough as it could be.
Yeah.
You know, we've definitely had some rough winters in this area before, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. But I just don't want it to snow tomorrow, but it's fine.
We're on the precipice. The recording is on the precipice of a snow day where they're like, we don't know whether it's going to be 2 inches or 7 inches. It's like
9, boy. Like it's too much.
I was watching. I've been watching this whole new CBS broadcast, Detroit, just as it's starting from the origination. It's unique in creating content and production and all the other prompts that I go through. And the weather guy. First off, this is the first Muslim a Muslim weatherman that I've ever seen. Yeah. So that's already interesting and dynamic and so Detroit, Metro Detroit, as we would say. But they said, so what's the weather going to be? He was like, well, I can tell you this, 100% sure. There will be a forecast tomorrow. I started laughing so hard where I'm like, this guy, I hope he keeps his job because if he can keep that humor, it'll be funny. But I can see a producer like, you know, throwing a coffee at the screen.
Yeah.
If he said something like that.
There will be a forecast. Wow. Yeah, It sure will be. We just don't know what it is yet.
Don't know. And that's what Michigan's like, you know. It's 60 today and 20 tomorrow. 80 one day and raining thunderstorm the next.
Yeah.
You know, and then sometimes it's weird. Like it'll rain on the east side and not on the west side, or snow on the west side and not on the east side. You'll be like, hey, man, it's snowing. And they'll be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's crazy. And like where my family's from in Ypsi, like you'll get some crazy type of weather there and I won't see it for hours or I won't see it at all. So they're like, prepare yourself. It might rain and we get nothing. So
that's how it is. So with that, all this to do, writer with the Free Press, but writer even before then, because to be a writer for a publication, you got to be a writing beforehand. Also, definitely to the soil of Michigan, but I still got to ask you the classic question. What's your connection to Detroit? How did your people get here? How did you get here? What's the Detroit link?
So my family is actually from Ypsilanti. Mm-hmm. My dad's side of the family came from Arkansas, Arkadelphia specifically.
Arkadelphia?
Yeah.
Arkadelphia, Arkansas. Where is that at?
It's like an hour away from Hot Springs. Okay. So kind of like the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of cities around it that have populations of like 800 people, 3,000 people, like really small town. Mm-hmm. But everybody knows each other there. And it's near where the first Walmart was created, and they treat Walmart like a mall there. It's really strange to go inside. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's where they're from. You know, my family came here in the 60s, right before my dad was born. And they started working at my granddad started working at the Ford plant, which is what a lot of people did when they moved to Ypsilanti. They all started working at the Ford plant. Same with my mom's side of the family. My grandma is from, my grandma's family is from Yazoo, Mississippi.
Yazoo?
Yep, Yazoo. So when they moved here, my granddad, when he came back from Germany, because he was in the U.S. Army, when he came back, he started working at the Ford plant too. So
Okay.
just a Ford family, pretty much.
Okay. Okay. So as I said in another interview that you got, the Fords is usually what, folks around here would say, work for the Fords.
Yeah.
The part of the design and makeup of that corporation through marketing was to be a family-based operation.
Yep.
Now, Henry Ford himself was not thinking in that way from everything that I've read. If you ever get a chance to read his autobiography, which really is more like a planning and a processes of how he saw systems, my life, my work, it's interesting. The shadow cast on him, a lot of due to some of his anti-labor stances, due to his anti-Semitic stances and certain things of today that, as they say, he was a man of his time, meaning like very, very, he had some rough viewpoints that would be looked at as very, not progressive and inclusive of many people.
Yeah.
But one of the unique things about Henry Ford, and I don't know if many people know this relationship, George Washington Carver was one of the key minds that Henry Ford would go to for everything in design, hence the whole concept of plant and everything like that. The relationship between Henry Ford and the Ford Motor Company and Tuskegee was so instrumentally connected because of George Washington Carver. So do your research. There goes some free game that you can look into and then even see the design of it and then systems. So like even in his book, My Life, My Work, and then when you look at the thought process of George Washington Carver having these relationships with plants and ecosystems and looking at the systems and plants to help design better systems for how we and people in life can function. Hence the whole automotive plant and the design of most of our communities are around, you have plant, you have churches, you have cul-de-sacs, you have all of this focused on basically getting you back to that plant so that we can maximize productivity around what you could do. Some of this design is definitely accredited to Henry Ford, but a lot of this is not just George Washington Carver, but so many of the other engineers and scientists from Tuskegee. Black folks were instrumental in almost everything.
Yeah.
Almost everything.
Just about, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So
it's also interesting that when they went to house all of their employees, they made all the houses look just about the same. And so you have all these neighborhoods that have a similar look. So there's neighborhoods in Ipsy who have a certain look. Inkster has a certain look. Then there's a neighborhood. So I live in Dearborn. There's a neighborhood near me. All the houses look exactly like they do in Ypsilanti. And so there's just these interesting pockets where you can tell that they made these single family homes for the workers that were moving there.
Yeah, I mean, even the Model T down the street in Highland Park itself, as they say, you can get a Model T in any color you want as long as it's in black.
Yeah.
And that's also what kind of led to some of the challenges of why deviation and customization and a lot of other things took place. But it was interesting that created a convergence on this space. Definitely the role and the opportunity of the $5 work week and what that meant work day. And was it really opportunity or was it exploitation? I mean, when we start asking ourselves these questions, is anything really opportunity or exploitation? It's depending upon how you want to look at it. It's a little bit of everything and everything. So let's get more into this story for you, writing.
Yeah.
And your journey, Ypsi to Detroit. It's right up the road. So what was the first time you remember coming down here?
So when I was in elementary school, we used to come to Detroit pretty often because, there were the zoo, you have well, that's Royal Oak, but you have the museums and things like that. We would come out here pretty often. So that was my first kind of exposure. But my family always thought that Detroit was far because, it takes between 45 minutes to get from our neighborhood all the way out here. And so there was also this stage in the city where a lot of the news that was coming out of Detroit was very negative.
Yeah.
And it made it seem like you shouldn't come here. Like that's what the perception was, the perspective was when you are, in a different city and you're watching these news outlets talk about Detroit. And so it kind of just sounded unsafe. And so I was a kid, so I did what my parents said to do. Like, we're gonna, I spent most of my time in like Ypsi, Ann Arbor, Canton, growing up. Sometimes Belleville, because there was a roller rink in that area. And I was in high school at that point. I went to Arbor Prep High School, and then I transitioned to Washtenaw Technical Middle College, which is at Washtenaw Community College. So I was able to get my associate's degree and high school diploma at the same time. So that kind of connected me to the student newspaper at Washtenaw. And so I started working there. My first story was weirdly like a protest about racial issues that were happening at Eastern. Someone was like spraying racial slurs on the side of a building, and
sounds very much like the American college experience. That's not an HBCU,
but the person was black, which they found out later on, which was kind of random. But anyway, that was my first story, and so I kind of like got that, my first story was tied into racial issues, and it's just interesting how, I'm doing that now where I'm talking about minority-owned businesses, and how there's issues behind that and how the history of that has not always been easy, and it's still not. So backtracking, sorry, I ramble.
I was gonna say this in reference to that. As you talk about some of the negative stories, as we've been aware, and this is a Kari Frazier theory that I feel has a lot of examples to show you it's some truth in this, but usually with political leadership and in business or in community leadership led by black people anywhere, it's going to be looked at like it's unsafe, unclean, unadvanced, and I'm talking about globally. So like even right now, looking at what's happening in Uganda, Nigeria, Ghana, certain places and spaces there, Detroit, Baltimore, DC, Atlanta, things just align that things happen. Right now, this is the day after Lori Lightfoot will no longer be in position to even have a runoff to be mayor of the city of Chicago. And you have a black man versus a white man, which both, just through my ties, I have some knowledge of both. But I guarantee that the minute if this white man is elected, you're going to start seeing a lot of stories come through the media like Chicago's about to make a comeback. And if the black man's elected, it's going to be like Chicago's even worse. You know what I'm saying? It's that relationship because the agency and understanding, and I feel like it's a lot of misunderstandings culturally. So when you express these stories, political leadership, or politically, community, business, any of these institutions, education, it's great because you're giving a glimpse into our cultural understanding and what's happening and how things are happening to better interpret how we're living.
Definitely, yeah. So speaking of those stories, I ended up realizing, Detroit is the place to be as a journalist, like, growing your career and landing here. Like, that ends up being a lot of people's goals when it comes to, like, hometown areas, so Metro Detroit. Because growing up in Ypsi, like, the closest city was Ann Arbor, and of course there's different news outlets there, but there was no TV. And I originally wanted to go in the TV route. So that was like my main focus. I was like, I got to get to Local 4. And so going through that, I went to college at the University of Michigan Dearborn, and I was able to intern at Local 4.
So time out. So you lived in Ypsi, but you chose U of M Dearborn to be closer to the D. That is such an interesting back and forth because U of M's campus for people outside is in Ann Arbor,
Yeah.
but there are also satellite campuses. I know Flint has a very strong U of M Flint, and U of M Dearborn are very strong too. As a Henry Ford Community College guy, and most people go from Henry Ford over to U of M
Yep.
Dearborn, so I'm understanding of that relationship.
Yep. So U of M Ann Arbor doesn't actually have a journalism program. And so when I was looking at the school, I was like, first of all, your GPA has to be really high to get into the school. And you're not going to get like the hardcore like journalism experience that you need. And so coming from Washtenaw, they had a really good journalism program. And so I said, I want to continue this. And I want to be able to get like that full on education. So U of M Dearborn was the next school. I thought about going to Eastern. It was just too close for me. It was too close to home. And I thought about going to Michigan State, but then I found out they didn't have like air conditioning in units in their dorms. So I was like, no. So I ended up going to U of M Dearborn, and I love that school. I was like really a huge student leader. I was just always getting involved in something. I joined a sorority, so I joined Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated there. I was president of that chapter. I was also editor-in-chief of the student newspaper. And so I was just doing a lot of stuff. It was just kind of ridiculous when I look back on it, when I was like, I think I was a part of at least 20 organizations while I was there, which I do not recommend to people. You need to be able to like sit back and relax in college, but I was not for that.
Why were you so involved in all of this? And was that a U of M Dearborn thing? Were you like that in high school? Were you like that at the okay?
Nope. So all of my friends were involved when I was in college. And so I was involved in like that student leader friend group. And I had so many interests because I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do. And I was like, well, college is the time to figure it out. So I was in like student government. I was in the student newspaper. I was doing literary magazine stuff. I helped to run a fashion show one year. It was just like a lot of random things.
All right, and then also being an older student myself, but you being a younger student because you graduated high school with an associate's,
right,
that you spoke to. So that puts you on a college campus in classes with like grown folk. You know what I'm saying? And
really
then U of M Dearborn is also a commuter school. So you're sitting here like, you're like 19 next to somebody that's like 36, like, yeah, I got to get home and then make this dinner for the kids. And it's like, I am the kid.
Right. Yeah. So I actually lived at U of M Dearborn.
So what was that like, that cultural experience of being young around so many people older? How did you interpret that? What did that feel like?
Yeah, I felt like I grew up really fast because, like, the people sitting next to me are 40, like you said. And so I'm getting perspective from their lives, and they're like, oh, like, this is my second career. And so I'm learning from them. But it was interesting. Like, one of my friends had a friend who was like 65 and, she was younger than me. So I was like, wow, like, this is such a interesting dynamic, I would say. And so it was just kind of weird to navigate. A lot of my friends were in college. And so, I was maybe, I don't know, 18 at that point. My friends were like 20, 21. So it was just, I just feel like I grew up really fast.
And can you speak a little to that, just for the person that may be in that position, what it's like in finding your comfort, being the youngest in the room? Because when we talk a lot about prejudice, bias, and, things that can exclude people, being young is often not spoken about because we're older for a whole lot more of our life than we're younger. But I do think it's some unique dynamics when you are a young person in spaces like that.
Yeah. I feel like, navigating it in the time being, it was, I just always tried to find something in common with people because I was able to realize like we have more in common than we think because we're both sitting here in the same room at this point. Like we obviously have some sort of common goal. Now, if we were in math class, I wouldn't be able to say we had a common goal, but like in my writing classes, like we all have a certain point that we want to get to. So I was always really good at like finding something in common to talk about. And then that was how I learned how to like build those relationships. And so I would say now, you know, I'm able to talk to anybody of any age, of any race, of background without struggling or, you know, just finding commonality between people and realizing like there is really no barrier if you can help it. There's always going to be somebody, but there's less barriers than we think.
And I'm going to stay here for a while just to expand as, you know, you're present for these conversations and you're very aware, but and now I'm, you know, at 40, I'm becoming the older guy like, oh, these young people don't, you know. So I'm sure you've hearing these discussions as some of it's still definitely real to me because I feel like your generation, you know, this is like a primary form of communication. And with this device, it's changed so much of the interpersonal, the body language, the looking people in the eye, like some of the standards of connection that has grown our comforts over time have completely shifted now. You know, so something as simple as I remember, you know, in my college journey, you know, just being in a group, sort of being that intermediary. So now you're in a group with, you know, the kid that's the lead dishwasher at Big Boy, and so he's 19. I'm 32, and then we got somebody that's 55. And how do we even work something out like, you know, when we'll meet, how we'll meet, and how we delegate task? Could be, you know, it would be a lot of feedback challenges. So that's why I want to sit there for a second. So being in that, how did you gain that confidence to be, you know, younger than someone but still take a leadership position? And then furthermore, if that older person kind of, you know, came at you like where it's like, that's kind of weird, but still stand your ground, but still respect them.
Yeah. You know, it's been a journey, I would say. You know, there are people who have kind of talked down to me in a specific way, but my mom works in a corporate position, right? So I've listened to her like have conversations with people, and you know, I've listened to her navigate those conversations because when I was growing up, I would go with her to where she works and sit there, and so I would listen to how she would talk to people and how like her conversation would change based on like if this person talks down to you. So I think learning from that, I kind of figured out how to navigate it, you know? So, like, if somebody's talking down to me, I will turn it back to them and be like, well, you know, here's how you can help me and how we can get to a common place together. That way, you know, it's not like I'm the one taking charge, that it can make it seem like we're doing this together. Sometimes you got to fake people out, you know, like to make them think that, like, okay, like if we're doing this together, or if I sort of present something in a way where it makes it seem like they did all the work, because sometimes people just want all the credit. So I would say that's kind of how I've navigated it. I'm not really a person that needs to have credit for everything, or I need to be front and center. I'm actually like a pretty shy person, and I like to be pretty reserved and like in the back seat. That doesn't always work out for me, unfortunately, because I'm always like doing something random, and it's usually something that's cool or good, whatever it may be, but I don't like to be that front and center person. So sometimes I've been able to just let other people take the credit, and they're like, okay, this is fine, and they may not like me at the end of the day, but you know, they still got the credit for what happened.
Okay.
That happened in college.
And in that, and you're speaking from your perspective, but what do you think is so much of that communication disconnect between the generations? Like my thought process, like I said, I think a lot has to do with social media and the cell phone and stuff like that. But what's your take? And how do some of your friends feel when like, oh man, these old people, da da da.
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
I think that people think that Gen Z has come in to cause fires, and I don't understand why. I think that their perspective of Gen Zers is like, high schoolers, people who are the youngest Gen Zer, I think it's 13 years old, and so they're grouping the 25-year-olds with us, and all of a sudden it's like, you young kids, like, you don't know anything. And I think that Gen Zers have like this confidence about them because we've had people geeking us up for our whole lives on social media, like, oh, you look so good, all that stuff, oh, you're doing so well. It's like the congratulations era, And so I think that that's where that's coming from. Like, everybody's always told you, oh, you're good at this, you're good at this. And so there's this disconnect because that didn't happen for the previous generations. And they were never told, you're doing well. They weren't told that often because, like, my comment section will have 300 people saying, oh, congrats, you did well. But, like, that wasn't like that for other people growing up.
Nah, yeah, it definitely, like, I guess the older you get, it's like, you're supposed to do that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh. And it's like, hey, you know weird. What I'm saying? I gave a kidney to my mama. You supposed to give a kidney to your mama. Like, can I get a, hey, that was admirable.
Yeah, exactly. Can I get a news story? Like, but
no. Whereas in your generation, it's like, hey, found a clean fork.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah.
You got an A. Like,
clean fork.
Yeah, we've been doing that for our whole lives. And so I don't know who started that congratulations era, but it has been full force for us.
It's unique you speak to that because I got definitely a big media in that. So you're saying like a congratulations, because often the critique is, and I've seen it in certain ways, and I don't know if it's like, I think it's like misunderstandings and communications where sometimes it'll be like, I remember here one of the interns that we had working here, like sometimes it's just like, are you paying attention? Are you paying attention?
Yeah. He
was getting a lot more of the information, but I just didn't feel he was as attentive. So it's like, are you paying attention? Are you ready to work? Are you committed to the task? I have a belief of how that looks. I don't know if that's true, but I have an idea of somebody being like, yeah, I'm ready to work. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Showing up 15 minutes early with a coffee in their hand, like, yeah, long day, ready to go. As opposed to like walking in like, hey, you got all the instructions, and the person like, yeah. And it's like, yeah. And I see
that's
that, and I think like, what is going on? Are you getting it? And then it's like, well, I was taking notes.
Okay. Yeah, I do
and
that.
It's like, oh, I didn't see that. Like I say, a miscommunication.
Yeah.
How is that miscommunication impacting? You know what I'm saying? Like more of, like you say, it's like the congratulations, but it's also like it seems like more of a disconnect in certain ways.
So there's another one that I kind of think about as well. I call it the pay your dues generation, where a lot of people expect you to pay your dues in order to get a certain point. And like, I'm all for that. I'm all for, you have to work hard to get what you want. But I think that there's a disconnect with this latest generation because, like, a lot of our lives kind of went to a hold because of the pandemic. And so, like, I feel like, I got out of college and I was just like, all right, I got to work because I didn't have a break, like, it was just like, oh, you're starting your life and you don't really know what's going on because people are like getting sick. And you don't know if you're going to be okay either. So it was just like, I think there's like this weird pandemic disconnect that happened. It happened for everybody, everybody struggled through that. But I think like starting your life in this specific moment is not the best route.
Well, expand on that.
So I think that there's challenges with like mental health. There's challenges with getting jobs. A lot of internships stopped because you couldn't go into those spaces with the pandemic. And so a lot of people are coming out of college with like no skills on like how to get into newsrooms and things like that and other jobs. So I think that there's just this gap that we don't really know how to fill because we're at this stage of the pandemic where, is here, but it's not, like it's a strange stage and people are starting to come out. Those networking opportunities are starting to come back, but people feel different at those events now. It's more of like you just kind of want to stay to yourself because you haven't had to talk to people for 2 years. So I think there's been a lot of like personality changes as well, because like I'm more of a homebody. I used to be out every weekend, you know, but the pandemic, I like to be in the house.
Okay. All right.
It's weird.
So journalism. What led you into journalism? And we're going to come back to some of these other topics.
Okay.
But what led you into journalism?
Yeah, so back when I was at Arbor Prep, we had high school, we had this elective, and it was a journalism class, and so that was like my first exposure to journalism, and I really liked it. I've always been a writer. Even like in third grade, like I was always in our writing class, and I was just like writing for the entire 30 minutes that we were assigned to. And so I just enjoyed telling stories and things like that.
What type? Fiction, nonfiction?
Nonfiction, definitely nonfiction. I have no fictional creativity whatsoever.
Do you read fiction?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I used to growing up, but I like to learn about history and things like that. So I'm more of like a nonfiction person.
Okay.
But yeah, so you know, that was like where my passion kind of started. I had my homeroom teacher would tell me, oh, you should like enter this writing contest. And so that was where I really started to like craft on like what I like to write about and how I like to write. And then it just kind of continued from there.
Okay. All right. And you said broadcast. What connected you to say, all right, that's what I want to be?
Yeah, so I like talking a lot, like in the past. Like that was my thing. My family always says like I talk a lot.
Okay.
So that was what I wanted to do, and I liked explaining stories in a way that people would understand, especially if it was something complicated that had to do with like breaking down money or some issues that may have been happening. And I also just thought that like I had like these role models that I was seeing on TV. You know, you have like Glenda Lewis, you have Carolyn Clifford. Like those were the people that I was looking to. Rhonda Walker, like, you know, I wanted to be like them. And so I would constantly.
What was it about them, that black newswoman, that made you say, this is cool, this is an example, I want to be like this?
I really like the way that they carry themselves, and I also like to see them out in the community. Like, I met Carolyn Clifford at the auto show one year, you know, just, like, she was signing autographs and stuff, and, like, you know, Glenda Lewis, I liked how her mom was also at the same station, and like that generational history just transitioned to her. So I really just like seeing strong women that were great storytellers, and it made me see that this was possible.
So that's cool in the design, which leads to like the next question. Like I say, this phone, social media. When did you get your first social media account? Because for us, it happened like, you know, it happened as we were, you know, as Joe Budden will say, we was outside living, then social media came.
Yeah.
When did you get your first social media account?
I think it was 8th grade.
What was it?
It was Instagram.
Oh, so you started with Instagram.
Yeah.
Whereas like most of us started with like chat rooms on America Online, MySpace, all these iterations.
Yeah.
So you started with Instagram.
I wasn't allowed to have the other accounts.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So was it like a parent decision and a sit down? Was it like my friends got it? What was the negotiation for kids? What was your arguments?
Well,
on behalf of yourself, and they were the judge and the other attorney.
Yeah.
To get your IG.
Yeah, let me not get in trouble. So my parents told me that I couldn't have Twitter or Facebook.
Okay.
They didn't say that I couldn't have Instagram.
So it was
they didn't know what it was
a child's
yet.
loophole. You were ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Because parents weren't hip enough to know what it was.
Exactly. So yeah, I got on Instagram. All of my pictures were deep fried, as we call it. You know, it was just like really high contrast and really vibrant.
That's what that's called. See, you already teaching me something.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is deep fried?
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say, being that you had an interest in journalism and now you have an outlet to speak, because that's the other thing. Like, social media for certain people is, you know, it's just a place to talk to family, friends.
Yeah. For
some people, it's like the way to communicate for my organization, my business. But if you want to tell stories, it's a heck of a platform. So that's where I was wondering, like, what did you get into?
I don't think that I actually started using it for work purposes or storytelling purposes until I was like in late high school. So I was at nearing the end of my time at WTMC, WCC.
Okay.
So yeah, I was just on it just to be on it,
Okay.
honestly.
So were you more? I do know this. Not that old. Were you more like of a lurker? Like, were you more looking at other accounts than posting yourself? Did you have fun posting? What was your thought process?
Yeah, I just liked posting. A lot of it was like selfies and things that I was doing and pictures with friends. It was really just like a place to show what you were doing, honestly.
Okay.
And then like I had Snapchat as well, so I would post like what I was doing each day and posting videos with my friends. And then we also had Vine. When Vine came out, I would make
Vine was like
videos.
TikTok before TikTok. Now she's
Yeah.
old.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So yeah, I would make videos with my friends, and then I was also like consuming a lot of content. And like with Vine, the videos were like 6 or 7 seconds. I don't remember, but I used to be on it for hours, and so
Just like TikTok.
yeah, yeah. And I'm kind of similar in that way now where I'm watching longer videos, but it still has my attention. Like, I just watched this Hilton ad the other day. It said if you stay on this ad for 10 whole minutes, we'll give you 100,000 points. So I was like, bet. I'm staying here because I want 100,000 points. So, it's just like watching how brands in the past didn't really use Vine, but now they're like all over TikTok.
And that's where I was going to ask, just being that age, because, this is a deep discussion on the fact that there are so many parents that feel like, stay off that social media, stay off
Yeah.
that social media. My perspective is, not a parent, definitely uncle, and engaged with a lot of little homies. I don't know, like, it's kind of like guns or anything else. Like, it's more about the person's intentions that could be bad more so than removing everything.
Yeah.
Because technically, we're in America, so I mean, you almost wouldn't want to touch anything if it could be used cruelly. It's like a lot of people can use things for nefarious ways. But in that, being that you were younger, still expressing, sharing, and I'm guessing sharing amongst friends, what was your take on it, and how do you look at it now? What would you think like as a starting age for social media, or how does that connect? What's your opinion?
I've still been trying to figure that out because I see like a lot of articles about like young people having issues with social media where it's causing mental health issues and things like that. And I could see where that was taking place like when I was growing up, but it wasn't like I feel like mental health was not as prominent of a conversation when I was growing up compared to like how people have it now. And so I feel like over the last like I would say 5-6 years, we've really been like carving that mental health conversation. But back then, like you would be on Instagram for hours just waiting to see like, oh, who's gonna like my post, or did the boy I like my post,
And that was like, and I mean, I know I'm speaking as if I'm alien or something like that,
No.
but that was like, you had, even like at a young age, like ninth grade, it would be a thought process of
Yep.
how many likes am I going to get on, I don't know, I bought these new kicks, so I took a picture of them, I put it up.
Yeah, I used to do that all the time.
and with that impact, because I guess that's the mental health thing, like would that impact the person's mood? So it's like, love the new shoes. If I'd have just got the regular new shoes, I'd have appreciated it, period. But without the validation of 50 likes, it's like, I don't know how much I like these kicks. Like with that, like this stuff,
Yeah, I mean that's definitely what was happening, and I think for me, I would just use social media to like. So I'm a car girl. I love exotic cars. So I would use social media to like look at cars, and whenever I saw a car, I would post it because I wanted people to see like, oh, this was in my proximity, even though like I was just like in a parking lot. So it was just things like that. Just the little validation things like, oh, this is something cool that I did in my life. Like it, I got this award. Like it. But again, congratulations, Era.
And with that same congratulations there, I guess the flip side of that is without the congratulations, it's like you feel more empty, or without the congratulations at the level, like you say. If the standard's 300 likes, is that always the standard now?
I actually, so now in my life, I turned my likes off. I have no idea how many likes I get.
Why did you turn your likes off?
Because I saw how it was like hurting other people's mental health, and I said, I don't really want this for myself. You know, I don't care how many likes I get on a post. I might care on my work social media account and be like, oh, okay, I'm use the likes to gauge like, oh, people are interested in this. They're not interested in that. They don't really care about this. They might care about this. But in my personal life, I don't necessarily care how many likes I get. I'm just posting because I want to keep track of my memories. So it's just like different for me now. I honestly do not like being on social media, but I have to be.
Did that impact how you used it? Like, without any likes, does that impact even your posting and like? Okay.
Nope, I just kind of post for me. So, like, I'm in grad school right now. So, a lot of, like, my personal account is just talking about, like, the grad school experience and how it has been difficult, but also I've had positive moments. And so I post that content so that people can understand, you know, so that people can understand not only like you can't always hit me up to do something, but also like I want other people to see like, oh, this is what grad school is actually like if you're considering it, you know.
And then also it was one of my favorite podcasts here. They don't podcast with Detroit is different anymore. The unicorns are real. So if you come in the podcast house, you'll see all this art on the wall. That's from the Unicorns Are Real podcast. Asia, Aaron, love both of them dearly, and they're great creatives. I hope they come back one day. But I remember one time we're at something, and I was like, "Look, we're planning the Detroit is Different festival in 2019," and they said a term that I still use now. Shout out Asia. Like, it's got to be an Instagrammable moment. And I was like, okay, so I need to create experiences that are Instagrammable. But as experiences become more Instagrammable, are experiences experiences?
No. So I'm pretty big on like not using my phone very much when I'm out doing something, when I'm at an experience. Like I'll record a little bit, I'll take a picture maybe at the end, but I have learned that like I used to watch the experience through my phone, which didn't make any sense because I was standing right there.
When did you recognize this, and as you started changing in that, how did it change your connection to the culture?
I think it was a shift like during the pandemic, because I graduated from college in 2019, and so I was still in that, oh, it's got to be like Instagrammable, like we got to create spaces that people care about, that they want to experience. But then like once I left school, I didn't have anything to
Instagram.
Yeah.
It was like back in front of the refrigerator.
Right.
What up?
Yeah. I was like, all right, like still at home. Like,
yeah,
you know.
exactly.
And so I think the only thing that I was actually taking pictures of during the pandemic was like how messed up my hair looked because I couldn't go get it done. So I would take pictures of it. I'm like, look at what this pandemic has done to my head. So that was really it. I didn't have nothing else to show.
Because it's unique now in social design, and even as I do events now, like even now you'll be almost in every city now. It'll be different things set up, like the wings across Detroit, or you'll go, it's a Detroit sign. The NFL draft coming has like a little shoe that you can take a picture. You know, it'll be like Mickey Mouse standing a certain way. Like, you know, the Detroit letters all 5 foot tall across. Like, these are becoming what we call Instagrammable moments. And you almost watch through social design, people just naturally go and take a picture, as opposed to even thinking to themselves, okay, let me be here. But and I'm thinking like I'd have probably, you know, sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. It depends on what I'm conveying. But it makes me think on all the experiences in my life, especially when I was younger, where it was like, I know if I would have been younger, I'd have probably Instagram this, you know. You know, my first jet ski ride, Statue of Liberty, you know, just different things where it's like I'd have definitely, this would have been my first time when I visited the college center down in Atlanta, Morehouse Spelman, stuff like that. Like, I know, but now it's unique, even trying to capture it, and even being with people that are capturing it. Like, you'll be out at a meal, and it's like, hold on, I gotta take this picture. Wait, wrong lighting, wrong angle. Wait, come out. It's like, let me get a picture of your plate too. Hold up.
I'm like, can I eat? Can I please eat? I have a lot of friends who still do that, you know, like they'll be like, oh, let me take a picture of it. Like, let's take a picture before we eat. Let's take a picture before like we start to party or whatever, because we don't want our hair to be messed up and take pictures later. And I'm like, I don't have the vibe. Like, my friends had to force me to take pictures on my birthday because I would not do it. I was just like, no, I'm good. You know, I'm good. Okay. I'm living in the moment. They were like, Chanel, go over there. So, you know, it's just everybody's like different at their social media stage. But I even have like time limits on my apps because I was on Instagram, Facebook so much that I was like, I'm wasting so much time on here. And I think the only reason that I have all these apps is because I have to use it for work. And so if I don't have them, I won't be able to connect with my audience. And my audience is on like Instagram, Facebook. And so it makes that conflict where like I really do not want to be on these social sites, but I'm kind of just stuck here. And so since I am stuck, like I would be on it during work and then after work, you know. So it was just taking up too much time. So I put some time limits on those until I got used to not using it. Then I took them off because I was just like, well, I don't care about it anymore.
How do you think this is going to impact just moving forward? You know, the Zennials, Generation Z, like, how is this going to impact just life, you think?
I think that people will still continue to capture those experiences and people will continue to record things and just continue the streak that they're at. I do see a lot of social media sites kind of enforcing those limits for people, which I kind of like because I just saw a TikTok said if you're under 18, you only get an hour a day. And if you need like more time, you have to put in a code. And so I'm thinking that, you know, things like that will help people kind of live their lives instead of just staying on social media all the time.
I think, but it's certain people that see their life through the lens of content creation.
Yeah,
like what they live is based on what they think their follow. You know what I'm saying? Like, like, oh, it's this new brunch spot that opened up that does fusion. I don't know, Southwest and African. And it's like, I don't like Southwest or African, but I know that's the place where, you know, Hungry Man going to be there and all that stuff. And I want to get there before Hungry Man get there so that I can be like, yo, I was on it already. Like, like it's things like that, just even accepted in my minds at times. So I'm sure it's more pressing because like you said, in middle school, you're in Instagram. Your whole, basically most of your life, you've been walking with this understanding.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think I do have a couple of like favorite Detroit content creators that do like the restaurants and businesses and all that. And it's interesting to see like, you know, they get paid for this content. So I feel like it's a little different for them where, you know, people like me, we're just on it for free, just like kind of wasting time. So, but at the same time, that's how they get paid.
Yeah,
is us consuming
you had
their
to
content.
Started from free to get to the point to monetization.
Yep. So.
And speaking of monetization, and I know we're deep here as I wanted to, but now I want to get back into like writing in Detroit. Free press. What led you to the free press? How did you get in? How has the experience been?
Yeah, so I started as an intern here in June 2020. I was covering breaking news. It's not my favorite topic to cover breaking news, and everyone knows that. But that's what I was doing. So I had stories that were, you know, from this thing happened today, maybe weather, maybe
I was gonna say
dogs.
I would think a lot of like, you know, this is, you know, you were probably covering that big flood of the water that flooded all those freeways.
Yeah, so I was actually out of breaking news at that time,
Okay.
but I still contributed to it because
Okay.
my the street that my apartment's on, like it was underwater. So
That's interesting. You were
Yeah.
like, I'm about
I
to write
like-
this story
right.
pro bono.
I'm sitting at my front window and I can't get out. So yeah, it's just like, things like that I would have been covering, but it was also protest season. So in summer of 2020, like that's what was going on when I first got there. It was also a time where the vaccine wasn't even there yet. We didn't have access to it yet. It was more for like seniors at that point or something like that. So that's the stage that I entered in. It was shocking.
Did you cover any of like the protests? I mean, since then I know Detroit Will Breathe, the Shadow, like it shifted a lot. Well, actually, I'll have something coming up soon, but a lot of discussions around police reform and just the racial injustices that have been instrumental and sadly instrumental in the foundation of this nation.
Yeah.
And a lot of the protesters were your age too. So like, what was it like connecting with that? Because I know a lot of the editors and people reviewing this are not, but they're speaking a different language to you. Because you talk to Tristan at Detroit Will Breathe or Kia or any of them, it's like peer to peer.
Yeah. So I actually asked to not cover the ones that were in Detroit because a lot of my coworkers were out there. I don't think they wanted to send me right away because it was like week 2 for me. And so but my coworkers were out there and I was seeing how they were getting treated like, and you could see it on Instagram Live, like one of my coworkers got pushed to the ground. And I was like, I am an intern, like I kind of have to think about safety and making sure like, my very like low wage was not going to get me hurt, like I couldn't do it. And so I also felt like, okay, like I was like 23 at the time, I think. And I was like, I look like a protester. There's no way to distinguish me from a protester.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, because they see you and they're thinking, the police are about to lock you up and put you in these different places that we're going to reveal soon, but not in this interview. But it was a lot of things that happened even here in Detroit that I think a lot of people are unaware of that some of the young people dealt with because they were your age.
Yeah.
And a lot of that disconnect does happen where it's like unknown, but to the people I know that were 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, some of the things they were dealing with in those acts of protest was like, whoa.
Yeah. It was a really scary time. So I got sent to cover the protests that were outside of the city. So like I was in, gosh, what cities was I in? I was in Ann Arbor. I was in Chelsea. I was in Romeo. I was in like, there's another city. I can't even. I probably covered about like 15 or so, like within a span of I would say 3-4 weeks.
What was that like?
It was a little hard because you're a journalist and you're supposed to report the facts, and you're also kind of resonating with things because you are Black and you are also, you understand and you relate to the people. I think that's why it was so important for journalists of color to be out there, because they were like, okay, like we empathize with you, like just talk to me and like let us know how you're feeling, and let us know like exactly what you need. I think that there were end goals for all of these protests, and so a lot of the people were like, this is what we're demanding, this is what we need, this is what we want to come out of this. And so it was a weird time for me. Especially, like I said, I was an intern, like, I was nothing in life, nothing in journalism school prepares you for those types of moments. Because they can't just like send you out in your classroom. They can't just like send you out to say, hey, this is how you cover a protest, or this is how you talk to people about how they're feeling in times of, sadness. So I had to learn that on the spot. And it was definitely difficult because, like, on CNN, like, I watched a reporter get arrested. Oh, sorry. I watched a reporter get arrested on, like, live on CNN, and it was just like, wow, like, this is a Black journalist and he's getting arrested, and I'm sitting here watching it. It was a lot.
Very much so. How has that impacted you moving forward, as you look at how you tell stories and the impact of what stories can be?
I always like to make sure that people of color have their voices centered in whatever story that I'm reporting about. I think that's why I like beats or journalism topics. For people who don't know, it's like beat means topic. So I like focusing on inequities, whatever it may be. So like right now I focus on small businesses, and a lot of that has tied with inequities. And so I think I've made it a goal in my life to always focus on inequities no matter what topic it may be, because I was kind of siloed into becoming a business reporter. It wasn't the goal, but I wanted to focus on small businesses. So it got attached to the business section, automatically. But, I really like focusing on those community, like, enterprise stories to make sure that the voices of people of color are being heard. Because it's just been too many times where that hasn't been the case.
That's deep. And since covering all these small businesses, what have you learned? What do you like about Detroit small businesses? What are some of the resounding messages you get?
This group of people is so inspiring that I want to start a business one day, like, I've never seen people that are so driven no matter what is thrown at them, no matter like what inequity they may face, whatever issue has happened, whatever obstacle, like they always find a way to get past those moments. And that is just so fulfilling to me. And like, even when during the pandemic, when I was reporting about the businesses in the early days, because I started this position in August 2020. So early days, customers are not walking around like they used to, like all that stuff. And, I would write a story and they would start to get customers coming in saying, cool. Like,
I saw this.
Yeah, like, I saw this in the paper, like, what do you have? Like, what can I buy? So that's always super fulfilling to me. But I just like seeing people succeed. And so I think that's where my passion for this comes from.
That's deep. That's deep. And you talked about like just having interest in it. In this interest, because that definitely is that Detroit spirit of entrepreneurship. What have you noticed maybe some of the gaps that do exist here for business owners?
Yeah. So access to capital is the main one. People have always told me that they need more grants instead of loans, because a loan is something that you have to pay back eventually. And a lot of times, like, especially during the pandemic, that wasn't really possible when they were losing money constantly because, like I said, that foot traffic stopped. Like, it was just a lot going on at the time. So I would say, like, access to capital is, like, the biggest issue. And then, like I said, foot traffic. People really need people to come back out to support the businesses. And there are so many new businesses now, like, it's kind of impossible to not shop at these businesses, There's so many. And especially with the retail, there's so many more businesses to shop at. So they need that foot traffic back. And so that I think those are like the biggest issues. Also, the construction industry, they need more access to labor. There's not a lot of labor for these businesses.
Yeah, I give you that.
Yeah.
I give you that. So So moving forward now with this and being in this space, what do you see next? Where do you see more of your storytelling going? Do you see books? Do you see
Whoa.
more? Do you see like stepping more into this realm of like podcasting, video? Where do you see things going?
Yeah, so I have kind of been studying that a little bit. Like, where should I take my coverage next? Like, how do I need to be telling these stories?
And then still keeping base, because that's the other thing, just being multifaceted, just adding another dynamic
Yeah.
to how you offer and tell stories.
Yeah. So I've already started doing like TikTok videos to share like small businesses, and some of those videos have like gotten a lot of attention because they're like, okay, like this is a walkthrough of a business, and so like you can see people making stuff or something like that where you're like really zooming in into like what's going on. So people like, things to do. So people just want to know like, where can I go today, And then I also think podcasts are doing really well. So I think a lot of content is going to continue going in the digital route. And then I think that AI and all that stuff is going to be in journalism somehow. I don't know how, but I think that there's going to be some automation going on.
Well, you just drove into something where I want to expand. Okay, it's going to be an interview coming up soon on Detroit is Different. He knows it. I know it. Haj Flemings. Haj is very creative. I don't know if you've ever met him. I'll definitely connect you.
Yeah.
He had me sit in on something, but he introduced me to the world of artificial intelligence. I just saw a story back on that CBS where they're like, Chat GPI is going to take away all the writing of everything. Nah, look. Let me just keep it 100 with people. Artificial intelligence is just like the social media thing. Will people misuse it? Yes. Because people misuse everything.
Yeah.
Do people misuse banks? How many times have bank accounts been compromised? And you still got money in one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's creative ways. And I like to see the glass is more half full than half empty. Don't completely push back on it. Figure out how that goes into it. But it's still, if anything, what I'm finding out more as I'm learning AI, it's about your creativity. And it actually opens up the idea and brainstorming because these systems have to have intelligent design for input. And you have to know the science of the intelligent design for input. Yeah. So it's not like you can just say, hey, I want to give me a video or give me a whole album of Tupac's music that never came out. And then, next thing you know, you get 15 songs like, oh, man, I'm with it. No, it's not like that. You have to you have to understand what the prompts are. You have to understand how to speak to the language. It's very much like computer programming. Yeah. That's really what it is. So it can be some strength in there. And I agree with you. I do think that we're here. I saw such a deep fake. It scared me the other day. And I was like, wow, I consider myself pretty savvy in knowing what real video is. But, it's going to be that. But it's also going to be, I think, some positive things that can come from that, too. So it's interesting. It's interesting you are already guiding up and seeing that focus.
Yeah, I have, so I'm at Syracuse University online going to grad school, and one of my classes last semester was focused on emerging media platforms. And so, like, we had to create our own virtual reality rooms, and, like, we had to do some things with AI, and we had to, like, create, I forgot what they were called, but it's like a virtual tour of places and all that stuff. And so I'm kind of thinking in that mindset of like, how do I use these types of things to do storytelling to kind of immerse people in the content instead of them just like reading it in that linear platform.
Yeah, because a lot of you all love these Van Gogh exhibits and all of these other immersive experiences. Yeah. I'm so mad. It was a Prince immersive experience in Chicago one of the last times I was there, and I was like, damn, I missed it. But I was like, I wonder what that would have been. But these immersive experiences using holograms, 3D animation, and all of that stuff are examples of artificial intelligence connecting well in experiences people want. But it'll definitely be some things we probably don't want either. But that's just a part of life.
Yeah. It's what comes with technology, to be honest.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, don't be that person that's left behind because of
Yeah.
you're afraid of what you don't know. In that same vein, as we get closer to a close, I have different usual set of questions for non-Detroiters. So I got a couple different ones for
Ooh,
you.
exciting.
But with it also, you're always in businesses, in this flair of the friend circle and all of that stuff. Are you the go-to person when people want to know new restaurants, clothes, things like that? Like how has that connected you as like a cultural tastemaker?
Yeah, so I don't actually focus on restaurants. I'm just more of like the rest of the businesses.
Yep.
So yeah, the amount of people that I have, for example, Harper Ray Jewelry Store. It's like I wrote about it, and then it became my favorite store. Like I am always at Harper Ray, and so all of my friends ended up doing the same because they're like, "Oh, where'd you get that from?" Or I got them a gift, and so I'm constantly like bringing people to that place. Also, like, my favorite Detroit restaurant is Pequeño Cantina. Like, I bring everybody there. Everybody that I meet up with, like, I'm like, let's go to Pequeño. So, I'm constantly, like, bringing people into new spaces. And I think that, when I have those TikTok videos, it helps people to, like, actually see what's going on in space instead of, like, I've noticed a lot of people don't like to, like, read as much as they used to. So people want to see videos, people want to see hear audio, people want to see pictures. So I try to provide that. And so I think that, in the comment section, like I wrote this story about this arcade that had opened in Ypsilanti. And it's like 3 floors of places. And so I did a TikTok video, and so everybody's in the comments like, oh, we got to go here, like, because they're seeing it, they're hearing it, they're immersed in it. So I think that, becoming the go-to person just happens organically as you're, like, showing these spaces to people.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So our classic questions.
Yeah.
First one, really. All right. I always say, like, if an alien came to Earth, because I try to make it real extraordinary, but your friends from out of town come. Where's the first place in Detroit you taking them?
Pequeño.
Okay. All right. You kinda
Pequeño
already gave
Cantina.
that. All right. And then after that, where y'all going?
Oh, I don't know. I would say...
And I'll give you more of a setting. You are a writer. Summertime, not the hottest day, so maybe like 75 degrees, dusk time.
Yeah. We're going to a bar in Midtown.
Okay.
I love Midtown because it's like a college town. And like I'm still close to college age. I can hang on to that. So we're going to a bar in Midtown.
Okay. Which one?
Honest John's has a tent in the summer. I like when they have a tent.
Okay.
And then I also like Barcade, and there's one I can't think of. It's like a brewery. Anyway, okay. I can't think of the name of it.
All right. And of the things, as far as like connecting, just from the outside in, what do you find unique about Detroiters? In our style, our culture, essence, what stands out where even when you're in other places, like that person's probably from the D.
I would say the lingo. I think that I think that people have a set of phrases that they use pretty regularly.
Give me a couple of them.
What up, though? My dad has been saying that for years, though.
Okay.
What's good, my baby?
Yes.
Like, I hear people say my baby all the time, and I'm like, I'm not your baby.
The east side, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Men do call each other
baby.
Other men, my baby. It's like, what's good, my baby? It's like a colloquialism, as we have.
Yeah, and I also hear people, like, say, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even though nobody knows what they're saying at all sometimes.
I'm guilty.
Yeah. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, no, but, I got you. Yeah. I'm just going to nod. It's hilarious. But I think some of those things are also, like, just Black lingo. Sometimes people just take things from Detroit and it just goes all over the place. So, yeah. But I never know what people are saying.
Ingratiated in all culture. This was fun. I can't wait. We're going to definitely connect. I got some ideas already I'm going to pitch towards you. So
I'm excited.
You'll be seeing this young lady again soon on Detroit is Different. And thank you so much. And also thank you so much for shining some light on some of my big homies and the connection through our mutual big homie. I know you out there. I got a great big homie in media that always guide me when I'm falling outside the lines, because people know I'm a color outside the lines kind of guy at times, you know.
Awesome.
Pink elephants. There we go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciated this. This was awesome.
All right. Peace.
Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.